We have a new case.
What do we have so far?
24-year-old Chris McCandless. His body was found in a bus along the Stampede Trail. It was determined that he starved to death.
Sounds like a closed case to me.
Normally it would be, but the DA wants us to determine who Chris was and why he decided to go off the grid.
Okay, so what do we have?
Chris McCandless was a Steeler athlete and a student in high school, enjoyed being by himself.
Wow, sounds like a loner to me. I don't think so. Along this trip, we made a variety of acquaintances. Who ID'd the body then?
A man who goes by Mr. Gallion. He was also dropped him off in Healy, only 23 miles away from where Chris' body was found.
We need to bring him in. I'm on it.
Good morning, Mr. Gallion. My name is Detective Hudson, and this is Detective Myers.
Good morning.
We'll be asking you a few questions about Alex.
Okay.
Did you take Alex on a ride to Anchorage?
Yeah.
Would you mind elaborating on that one?
No problem. I was heading out for miles out of Fairbanks when I spotted him in the snow next to the road. He was shivering real bad. I felt bad for the kid, and he seemed friendly.
Your statement says you tried to dissuade him. Is that true?
Well, he said he was planning on living off of the land for a few months, but his backpack looked like it only weighed roughly 25 pounds, which is a light load for a several-month trip. And his rifle was only a .22 caliber, which is way too small to take down any large animals. His shoes weren't waterproof or insulated. He had no compass, no axe. His only navigation aid was a road map. And his food source? It was a 10-pound bag of rice. There was a lot going against him, so I told him that hunting wasn't easy where he was going. And I told him a couple scary bear stories, but he wasn't fazed. He was determined and extremely excited.
I see.
I have here that you were the first person who contacted the authorities about the body. But you failed to inform the authorities that he was in Anchorage when you dropped him off. Why so? What changed your mind?
Honestly, I thought he would be okay, and if he wasn't, I thought he would go out to the highway and get help. But when I saw the headline in the Anchorage Daily News and that the body was found only 35 miles away from where I dropped him off, I just knew it was Alex. I guess he never really left my mind. Maybe it was guilt. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe I felt like it was my fault. It's just so sad though. He seemed like a great kid.
One more question, Mr. Gallion.
Yes, Detective?
Do you think he was crazy?
No, I do not. He was a smart kid. I don't think he was crazy. Though he was adventure-driven, he just underestimated nature and overestimated himself. He was too smart for his own good.
Thank you, Mr. Gallion. That'll be all.
So what did you guys get from Gallion?
He said he was stubborn, driven, and very smart. Basically, an overall good kid.
And he barely knew him.
That's interesting.
So, can we roll out craziness then?
Not yet. We can't take just one person's word for it. Who else do we have?
Mr. Franz, he's 81 years old. Both his wife and his son died in a car accident. And apparently, he was extremely close with Chris.
Okay, bring him in.
We're on it.
Good morning, Mr. Franz. I'm Detective Hudson, and this is Detective Myers. We're trying to figure out what happened to Mr. McCandless. Would you happen to know anything to help us out? Maybe about when you met him?
I need Alex a ride from Salt Sea, California to Grand Junction, Colorado.
You were close, is that true?
Yeah, I grew increasingly fond of him. He was a smart kid. I loved him like he was one of my own, but he was stubborn. Oh, he made it clear he didn't want any help from me.
What was your first thought about him?
He seemed extremely intelligent. I tried to have him spend the night with me always, so he told me that he didn't need to worry about him, that he was a college student.
What was your opinion on his journey?
I didn't want him to do it. When I came to visit him, he was living with some hippies, you know, in some nudist colony. That's no way for a young man to live, huh? I just wanted him to, you know, do something with his life.
Did you think he would be okay?
Yeah, he was a smart boy. You know, he was always carried enough in his backpack, enough money, and he had his Arctic clothes, and he, you know, so I figured he'd be fine. But I prayed for him. I did. You know, I asked God to keep a finger on him. I told him that he was special. I let him die. When he did, I became an atheist. I thought, you know, I cannot believe in a God that would let something happen to a kid like that.
Thank you, Mr. Franz. We have enough, and I'm sorry for your loss.
So, what did we find out from Franz?
Basically the same thing. He was really stubborn. He didn't want to be helped. But apparently, Franz grew extremely close with them. I kind of feel like it's more so because of his loss of his family. Maybe he felt some kind of deep connection. But there was something about Chris that he just bonded with. I don't know. It was real sad.
Anything else?
That basically sums it up.
Okay. Okay, so who's next?
Jane Burrs.
Alright, bring her in.
Alrighty,
Yes,
well,
ma'am. Good morning, Miss Burns. My name is Detective Myers. This is Detective Hudson. We were working on the McCandless case. I heard you two were close.
He was a really good kid. I thought the world of him.
I'm sorry for your loss, Miss Burns. Can you talk about him?
Great kid. Really happy too. Hungry, but so happy. He would go on one of his big adventures, and he'd be so proud of himself. When he left, I never expected to see him again, but he made it a point to stay in touch. For the past 2 years, I've received postcards every month. He came to visit too, but he was always quick to leave.
Did you feel that he was keeping you at arm's distance?
In a sense, yes. He was quick to pull away. He hated it when I mothered him or asked about his family. He would always say, "I'm a grown man," and then quickly change the subject. I think he didn't want people to become too attached. He didn't want anything to be expected from him in case he got hurt. But it's difficult not getting attached to Alex.
What was your opinion on the Alaskan trip?
In the beginning, I thought he was crazy, but he was really excited about it. And although I was concerned, I thought he'd be fine. He was a smart kid. I mean, he figured out how to paddle down to Mexico, how to hop freight trains, and how to score a bet at the intercity mission. I figured he'd figure out Alaska also.
Thank you, Mrs. Burns. That'll be all.
So, what did we find out from Burrs?
Chris kept her at arm's distance, but quickly to pull away.
He also stayed in contact with her a lot. I actually have a letter that he wrote to her right here.
Oh, let me see this. Seems like you valued relationships.
At least he tried to, as much as he can. He never stopped talking to them, which is extremely weird for somebody that wants to be alone.
Very interesting.
Extremely.
Who do we have next?
We have Walt. It's his dad.
Alright, let's bring him in. Hello, my name is Detective Baines and this is Detective Hudson and we are investigating your son's death. What do you do for a living?
I'm an aerospace engineer.
What do you feel that caused the separation between you and your son?
Well, when he found out about the affair I had with my ex-wife, I mean, my current wife and my daughter Karen were able to look past my moment of weakness, but Chris evidently did not. And I mean, even though I was still married to my first wife, Marcia, and I never forgot about Chris. I tried to devote as much time and try to devote myself to him, you know?
Would you say Chris was crazy?
No, my son was not crazy. Chris grew up in a good, family environment. I mean, he went to find his path in nature. Passion took his life.
Do you think Chris left into the woods in hopes of dying?
No. Chris was strong. He always succeeded at what he did. He was an outgoing boy who just loved to explore and wanted to get away for a while. Not for good, though.
Did you do anything to find where he was?
Of course I did. I went as far as finding a private investigator to help me find out, but it was impossible because when Chris wanted something, he got it his way. In the end, he outsmarted us all.
I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. That would be all. So, what did we get from Walt, Chris McCandless's father?
Walt was very defensive when we brought up Chris and his journey to Alaska.
Why would he be so defensive?
I don't know. Maybe he blames himself.
Could that be the reason why Chris McCandless left?
I'm not sure. We also learned about his father's affair with his ex-wife and how he had a double family. And I believe that probably affected him a lot. I mean, thinking that your whole childhood was a lie. I don't know. It's complicated.
Okay, let's keep this investigation going. Who do we have next?
We have Corinne, his sister.
All right, let's bring her in.
Let's do it. Good morning, Corinne. My name is Detective Myers. This is Detective Baines. We're the lead investigators of your brother's case.
Could you give us some information that could help us determine the reason why Chris went into the wild? Maybe how he was a teen, his relationships with your parents and you?
Yes, Chris was very talented. He excelled in everything he did. Except I was better than him in French language, which really bothered me. We were all very close until he found out about Dad's affair. And once he found out about Mom and Dad, he had completely despised them, talked bad about them, and then came complaining to me. We were unusually close. I feel like he felt that I was the only person who understood him. When I found out, I completely lost it. And some days when I'm alone, I still do. I miss him so much.
Thank you, Corinne. That would be all.
So, what information did we gather from Corinne?
Corinne and Chris were really close.
Yeah, extremely close.
What made them so close?
It's like she understood him and could listen to his problems about his father.
Now they can confide in each other.
Very interesting.
So he started his journey in Arizona and ended up in Alaska. This is where he lived.
Died in the bus.
His SOS note knowing that he was weak and he wanted help. And his final message. So, is he crazy?
Is he?
Is he?
The evidence acquired during the interrogations of Jan Burrs, Walt McCandless, Ronald Franz, Corinne McCandless, and Gallion drove us to the conclusion that Chris was not suicidal nor mentally ill before going on his expedition. CSI Sacramento came to the conclusion that Chris went on this excursion in order to escape his dysfunctional family. The family became dysfunctional because they could not understand each other's motives and actions. Later down the road, Chris found out about his father's infidelity, ultimately driving Chris to think that his life was a lie and that he wasn't truly appreciated. He felt like his dad went to someone else because he was not what his father wanted. After looking over all the evidence, Chris was not going to the Alaskan bush because he was sick or wanting to embrace death. He isolated himself from the judgment of others in order to achieve the life he wanted instead of following someone else's aspirations.
Corinne and Chris was very close.
Yeah, they were like unusually close.
Why were they so close?
Maybe he feels like it's his fault. I don't know. He also was extremely defensive about bringing up his affair with his ex-wife. I mean, for a good reason, right?
Just one or two?
I don't know. Come on! Boy, you get around!
Can you give us some information that can help us determine the reason why Chris... Can